for joining us today for our second in our webinar series of this school year. This is the second year that we're hosting the webinar series. This is a collaboration of many state agencies that have come together to provide you this webinar series led by TEA. So thank you so much for joining us we've noticed that there are many different roles of people in the participant list today: administrators, ESCs, teachers. So thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to let you know that about our presenters. Before we get started, excuse me, please go ahead and mute your mic. And then if you would please add your name and either ESC or district name into the chat for us. We would appreciate that. Okay, one of our that we get feedback from all of you is that you really like when we have districts put their input in. So these are people who are actually working there in the trenches with you guys, giving feedback on what they're doing in their district. So today you get what you asked for, which is we have Beaumont and Fort Worth ISD helping us today to let you know what it is that they're doing in their districts to help in the prevention of human trafficking. So we are excited to have Jacqueline Shirey from Beaumont ISD with us today. And then we have AJ Hicks and Trisha Tamayo from Fort Worth ISD sharing their learned experiences and insights with us. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and let Jacqueline kick us off this morning with Beaumont's perspective.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be able to share what we've done in Beaumont surrounding human trafficking prevention education and our response, as well as hear from other districts and programs, because I certainly think that the way we do this well is by learning from one another. So I'm very, very excited to have the opportunity to share and also receive. As Nancy said, my name is Jacqueline Shire. I'm the at-risk coordinator for BISD. That kind of entails a bunch of different things. I work on dropout prevention, our pregnant and parenting teens, students in disciplinary placements, and two of my kind of big bucket items are I oversee our human trafficking prevention ed, as well as our trauma-informed care. And those with the past couple of years have truly gone hand in hand as we've expanded our capacity for both to kind of grow and meet our students' needs. Prior to this, I was in Tucson, Arizona. So a lot of my passion and experience working with this population and surrounding these issues comes from my experiences as a teacher there and my background in working in trauma-informed settings. So I was thrilled to be able to bring it to Beaumont, but also to embrace the Texas model as it's kind of become known for how we work across agencies and prevention and response and identification. It's truly an incredible thing. And I feel very fortunate to be able to put it into practice as we get better and better at this. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just a little about Beaumont. For those of you who don't know, we're right in the heart of Southeast Texas. We're Region 5. We're not a huge district, but for Southeast Texas, we are the largest. We have approximately 18,000 students and 2,300 employees. That spans across 29 campuses, which includes our juvenile detention facility for the county, as well as smaller alternative placements. Our district is fairly diverse, and we are a higher poverty district. So I use kind of that information about Beaumont, not just to familiarize those who are unfamiliar with the area, but also to kind of show the numbers that lead to numbers. We know that Southeast Texas is becoming quite a hot spot for human trafficking for many reasons. Of course, we know the I-10 corridor, we know the Golden Triangle, all those things. But we also know that just as a community, regardless of the trends we're seeing, we have solid numbers that indicate a need just within our county. So our care coordination, our CAC, is Garth House, and they provided some statistics, some numbers that we've really been working from to just show the increase in services we're providing in the area to victims and survivors. And of course, we attribute a lot of that increase to better identification, which is a good thing. But we also know that the more we identify, the more we learn. It really sobers us to the issues at hand. Beaumont is known to have statistically higher numbers of ads or incidents as opposed to other areas that are triple our population. So we do see that that really red hotspot is growing. And we have a lot of issues occurring across motels and hotels across I-10. And we've seen within our district where we're serving students who are being trafficked right out of the community in which they live. And we know that we have agencies serving them in the community and taking care of their needs. But as a school district, we found it really important to be able to say, how are we identifying and then how are we working with our community to achieve that? Next slide, please. So this all kind of started around training prevention ed, because we found that that was going to be the first step we needed to take, not only because it's part of what we're supposed to be doing as a district. We know we have requirements, but we found that until we could get our staff aware of what was happening and how to identify or respond, we weren't going to be able to work effectively with our community partnerships, because we needed our agency to know what to look for. That began with all staff training in this winter and spring of 2020-21. We did Unbound Global's Keeping Students Safe. So I went through and became a licensed presenter, and I trained over 1,600 employees in our district. And what was really exciting about that is it was not only campus-based staff, but also central office personnel. So people who work in truancy or HR, transportation, anything, basically anywhere in the district, whether or not you had daily contact with children or not, we were getting aware. And a lot of that came from the idea of you're a neighbor too. You're a mother, you're a father, you're a neighbor, you're a teacher. Anytime you interact with someone in your community, we want you to be aware of the risks that are out there. We did all of this virtually, of course, given last year's circumstances. So that did allow for more people to be trained at once, because we did them all via Zoom. So my largest training was around, I think, like 893 people. It was a combination of campuses, and we offered certain ones throughout the month of January and February. A lot of that had to do with campuses and administration being very proactive about coordinating. So I know part of why we're here is to learn from each other. And I like to always share why it worked instead of just what we did, because I know that that can be really useful. It really was a team effort. Running the training was the easy part. Coordinating who was going to be there, when we were going to do it, the logistics, that was challenging. And so you really do need that cross-department, whole district kind of collaboration to guide it to fruition. What we did with our students, again, was very challenging because of the virtual platform we were in. About 60% of our students were distance learners. So we collaborated with different agencies. For us, our CSEY is called Harvest House, and they provided us with presentations that we virtually made available to students in grades 7 through 12. This allowed us to reach both on-campus and distance learners, and it gave us a way to get a solid amount of foundational information out there to raise some awareness. We connected it with a survey so that kids could express questions, that we could make sure, since there's not that in-person presentation that allows for disclosure or questions, we came up kind of with a virtual mode to make sure that we still presented the opportunity for kids to do that. And again, I'll talk a little bit about what we plan to do this year. We're trying to grow. That's not an ideal way to do, student prevention ed, but we wanted to do it even though we were in such unique circumstances. And I'm very grateful to our community agencies who helped us kind of navigate how to do that in a very strange way last year. And then for our parent prevention ed, just one spotlight, our bilingual ESL department host parent webinars every month for about an hour. And so in, I believe it was February, March, it was focused on human trafficking. So I created a presentation, we worked together, they translated it, we kind of well-versed our whole team as to how to present and what questions to answer. And then we all participated. So it was delivered in Spanish, but then questions were asked, there was translation. It was a really nice, wholesome experience for the parents that joined, and that was virtual as well. So looking back at what we did last year with training and prevention ed, we really are so excited this year to be able to count on being in person, especially with our students, and being able to reach them that way. And so I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like this year, but that was really our foundation as we kind of rolled this out across our district. Next slide, please. One of the most important pieces that I found to really move us forward was creating those inter-community agency partnerships. I know everyone on this call will probably attest to the fact that that truly is what makes this effective. And I and my team and everyone I worked with, we were very assertive with reaching each other and making those kind of connections. And we truly did become a team across the community. Without that, I don't think any of this would have worked. And I don't think we would be where we are now with the ability to move forward and identify more students. As I stated earlier, our CSEY is Harvest House and our core coordination is Garth House. But I also had meetings with our district attorney's office, the special crimes. We made partnerships with organizations that aren't just in Beaumont. So you may be familiar with the Children's Center, which is based out of Galveston and Houston. And of course, the Karen Purvis Institute, we sent a handful of employees through TBRI training. And we also signed partnership with them in the district. So we have access to their trainings and all they have to offer as well. Of course, that supports our trauma-informed care, but their work is, founded in trafficking too. So all these partnerships allowed for our training to really grow, but of course, our response to be more effective when it came to identification and then referral and connecting with resources. Next slide, please. So once we were able to get everyone trained to really make sure that our entire staff as a district had a foundational understanding of what to look for, what we were talking about, and then what to do about it. I always preach that as a former teacher in the classroom, there's nothing more frustrating than sitting through a training and being told the what, but not being told the how. What do I do with this information that you're telling me? I take the same approach when we talk about trauma-informed care as I do with human trafficking. We want to give people knowledge, but above all, we want to tell them how to address the situation. So with that came incorporating the See It screener into our protocol and our practice. So as of now, we're growing in individuals that are trained. Again, we are a smaller district. I'm a one-woman department right now. So I was See It trained last year, and now we're onboarding our counselors across the district at different campuses to do the same so that they can also screen. We embedded that screening process into our protocols in terms of how we ask teachers to communicate a concern, and I'll address that in a second. But the kind of culmination of that is we did partner with allies. So we are now using the Lighthouse platform to store screening and identification materials. And with that information, when we do screen, if we have a student who is either no concern or possible concern, or we're just worried about them, we know, of course, what to do when we refer. But the students who aren't necessarily report parameters, we are keeping them on a targeted list of, does a student need a mentor? Do we want to make sure that family has access to some resources we have in the district for maybe social, emotional, behavioral, mental health? Do they have support plans in place? Is someone tracking their progress? Do they know someone on campus? Do they have a trusted adult? So that's kind of where that district-wide collaboration came in to say, how are we serving these students within the district who aren't necessarily able to be referred to care coordination or the hotline, but we know something's not right and we know they're at risk for being exploited. Next slide, please. So that at-risk area is where we really pushed this new protocol into place. We made sure that our staff are very well versed at what to do if they have reasonable suspicion or confirmation or disclosure of any type of abuse, maltreatment, or trafficking. That hasn't changed. That's been the same for years, and we want to make sure everyone knows exactly what to do, what that involves, and that they follow that process to a T. So we did some work surrounding refreshers, flowcharts. This is the number. Here are some reasons you may call. This is what you are responsible for. This is what you don't need to do. All these things we kind of just refreshed our staff about. But where we introduced them to this new communication area was by saying, if you have a concern about a student and you're not sure and you don't think it's reportable, but something feels like it's brewing, that's where we want to talk as a team in our district. So that's when you're going to communicate that concern to the counselor, because hopefully your counselor is See It trained and then can work through that mindset. The See It really became useful for us as a framework to look at students. Of course, it's a screener, it's an identification tool that is very useful for a clear-cut result. But I found with our counselors, it gave them the mindset to look at the whole child and connect those dots that sometimes teachers have a hard time connecting. A lot of what we talk about is signs and symptoms, what to look for. And when you start to talk about teachers or staff that work with children and say, yeah, you know, that new purse, that new manicure, combined with the fact that they got kicked out of their house, and oh yeah, their grades have dropped dramatically over the past month. Sometimes we don't put all those things together. So we really felt like we could empower teachers by, if you have all these things, come talk to this person. And if we need to connect docs, we're going to help you do that. And so that's where the See It became, you know, kind of a more structured way of doing that, and allowed us to identify kids who are not necessarily a concern, but we need to make sure we have tabs on them because they're at risk. Next slide, please. So this year, we're really just looking to expand and grow in some of the initiatives we already started. So with training and prevention ed, we incorporated into our new teacher orientation. So we've done in August a Keeping Students Safe for School Personnel session, and then we'll do another one in January, not only because it's Awareness Month, but also we onboard people throughout the year. So we want to provide multiple opportunities to make sure we're getting new employees. We'll do another annual for any teachers if they've already taken it. You know, there's turnover, there's refreshers. We want to make sure everyone is constantly getting trained throughout the school years as they go on. And then we're inserting little in-services into various campus-based staff development. So my office is providing principals, and the counseling department is providing principals with little, 10-minute refreshers, or here's a flyer about what to look for. Don't forget, this is our protocol, just to kind of keep it on everyone's forefront of their thought as we look into students. We're focusing a lot of those in-services on after long vacation. So I've inputted kind of a timeline of after every major holiday break, we're going to make sure that we refresh and we turn people's, spidey sense back on as we come back after those breaks or long weekends or Christmas and whatnot. So that's kind of how we portion that out. With our students, we've talked about doing a focus on 7th and 8th grade for more small group prevention ed. You'll hear amazing things from Fort Worth about, the curriculum and some really incredible things they're able to do that I truly hope we can adopt someday when we are able to implement a more widespread curriculum. For right now, our prevention ed is going to be just more general, but we are looking at focusing time and resources on 7th and 8th grade for smaller group presentations and lessons in coordination with our community agencies that I previously mentioned. And then in January, our counseling department is going to do their parent outreach theme that month is going to be trafficking, of course, because of awareness, but it's also a good time of year. We know parents, we know the community, we've started to have them come to things. So we're going to definitely use that as a platform to give them some parent and community prevention ed, as well as show them resources we have as a district if they feel like their child is in need of just coming back onto the right path, or they're having concerns about their well-being and whatnot. Like I said, we're going to continue to get more individuals See It trained so that can be a more campus-based and fluid process. And then we're looking at preventative screening for some other high-risk populations. So our students who are identified as unaccompanied youth, foster care, as I said, I work with our pregnant and parenting teens. So kind of looking at these little subgroups to, instead of referral-based screen, to preventatively just start profiles on that we can monitor over time, which is one of the beauties of Lighthouse. And we're so grateful to have been able to navigate, having that as a school district as a partnership. And then working towards just continuing to align our protocols again across our community youth serving system. So again, we do work with law enforcement and advocacy agencies, and we have the Southeast Texas Alliance Against Trafficking. So those things exist, but we want to keep getting better. We want to keep talking and saying, what do you need from us? What can we do to make your job easier, and vice versa, and see how we can communicate in a way that's effective and aligns with all the parameters that come across communicating, but really how can we identify kids, get them the supports they need, and hopefully prevent any exploitation at all costs to keep our students safe. Next slide. I believe that's it for me. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much again. I'm so excited to learn from others as well. And we have worked tirelessly again across systems to really take this on. And I'm grateful we've had the opportunity and the guidance to do so as a district within kind of what we're working on as a state. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I appreciate you sharing out your information. Is there anyone who wanted to, any questions in the chat?
One question we have is, what program were you trained through? And I didn't know if that they're talking about the SEAT, the Karen Purvis, or Unbound.
So all those things. So sure, for Unbound, yep, they do a licensing course for the Keeping Students Safe training. So you can go through as an individual and become licensed so that you can then turn it around to your agency or organization. They give you go through the course, you do the training, you do a demo, and then they give you the material to then go reproduce it and share it with others. And yes, TBRI is awesome.
And Dwayne, we're going to be providing all of our speakers information shortly. I know that we have Fort Worth ISD's information. Do we have your contact information on this slideshow? Oh, Monica's saying yes, so it'll be in there. Okay, thank you. Thank you again so much for participating, asking questions. There may be some more come up, and we can circle back to Jacqueline towards the end of the presentation if you think of something. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and look at Fort Worth ISD's program and what they're doing in the work of human trafficking prevention.
Good morning. I'm AJ Hicks. I'm so happy to be here. Wow, Jackie just blows me away. She's a one-woman show and has accomplished so much in Beaumont. So really have enjoyed speaking with her. I think we were neck and neck trying to be the first district to sign up with Lighthouse, and she beat us out. So have a lot of respect for her. In Fort Worth ISD, we have a team. We were awarded the Human Trafficking Youth Prevention Education Demonstration Grant. And so we are working here in Fort Worth with our partners Unbound, now Unbound North Texas, and Three Strands Global Foundation. We have Sonia Brooks. I think she's on the call. She might want to wave her hand, who is working very closely with us from Unbound. And then Three Strands Global Foundation provides us with our Protect curriculum that we use with students. Unlike Jackie, I do have a partner here. We work with the grant together. So I'm going to introduce you to Patricia, who's going to talk about our prevention campaign to kick our presentation off. So next slide.
Thank you, AJ. Yes, hello everyone. I'm Patricia Tamayo, and this is our Human Trafficking Education Prevention campaign. Grateful for the funds that we were able to secure through OTIP, and our HTYPE project kicked off this past summer with a citywide prevention education campaign called Don't Get Tricked, which was coined by local youth trafficking survivors and alerts individuals on how they might be approached by human traffickers online and via cell phone for the purpose of sex and labor trafficking. We had such a tremendous media response after sending the press release out that AJ and I were given opportunities to promote Don't Get Tricked and the grant via news, radio, and online media. And it really allowed for more public exposures to the topic and dangers of human trafficking. The design and language was a collaborative effort with the HTYPE team and Fort Worth ISD student members of the United Voices for Change, which we call UV4C, and the relationship between the adults and the students on the topic, such as human trafficking, started some really crucial conversations on how young people view consent. And consent will be the next theme of Years 2's Prevention Education Awareness campaign, with an informative QR code posted on the students' posted on student and campus swag of bathroom mirrors and window decals and many cell phone plastic tags that students can hang on their backpacks, lanyards, or keychains. Of course, we have Spanish versions, and with the influx of refugees coming into our area, we're looking to expand by adding additional languages. So very happy that we were able to do that for our community and our students. Next slide.
Okay, this slide gives an overview about the HTYPE project and the goals that we have. We were funded by OTIP, the Office on Trafficking in Persons. And so we have some objectives that they've provided to us. We found that during the implementation stage, we have expanded those objectives a little bit. But year one, you can see here that we have been working on developing our protocol. We're blessed in Tarrant County to have so many people who are involved in this work. Tarrant County Sheriff's Office received a grant this year to do human trafficking work. We have our Tarrant County MHMR partners who also received a grant to do this work. And our city of Fort Worth PD has also received a grant. So we have all been working together, and that'll be a slide coming up here on actually developing and implementing our human trafficking school safety protocol that will feed directly into the care coordination team and their protocol here in Tarrant County. We also want to revise and strengthen our local school board policies. We have been charged with making sure that all of our staff is trained, as we all are here in Texas, that our students are trained and are made aware of the dangers of human trafficking. And so we just want to bring all of those board policies up to current expectations and make sure that we're covering all the gaps. Also in year one, we trained last year actually over 375 prevention educators. So on each of our 144 campuses, we have counselors and intervention specialists who have been trained in the See It tool. They have been trained in Lighthouse, and they are receiving training over the Protect curriculum in January on the 3rd and 4th. So we have a whole army of people who are going to be teaming up at each campus in order to make the project, duplicate the activities of the project. And then our plan by year 3 will be to train all of our 11,000 employees, 90%, because we know how it goes with turnover, et cetera, right? But we want all of our district employees to be trained, from our bus drivers, child nutrition, custodians, all the way up to our superintendent, of course, to be trained with consistent messaging, so that we're all on the same page and we share a common language when it comes to keeping students safe. And then this year, we're focusing on kicking off our prevention education to students. Now, Unbound has partnered with us for the last 2 or 3 years. So there have been education sessions happening at various campuses for the last several school years. But this year, we will have, during Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Fort Worth ISD, training for all students in grades 4 through 12. So every student in the district will be able to receive training at prevention education on their campus with staff members that they have relationships with and that they are familiar with. So we think that's a plus. Next slide. So our first objective is to get that protocol together, and that would include working with our local law enforcement agencies, working with our community partners to make sure that all of our staff know how to report trafficking. How do we notify parents? How do we notify those caregivers? And when should we notify them? And when should we not? We've had several students who are actually being cared for by their parents who may be involved in the trafficking of those students. And then also coming up with ideas for new referral sources, working with our community partners to make sure that students are treated in ways that are trauma-informed, culturally responsive, and linguistically appropriate. We have a huge population of students who come to us from out of country. And we have a student placement center that all of those students enter our district through. And so we have staff members at that location and in our International Newcomers Academy who are being specifically trained on the SEEIT, on indicators for those foreign-born students and those who are coming to us from out of country, so that we'll be able to do some universal screening at that point of entry. Next slide. This is the district flow chart that we are following at this moment. We have a 3-tiered response to human trafficking in our district. So this is the first tier. This is for any district employee. We want to take the first step of course, if there's an emergency, notifying law enforcement. But then we want to make sure that we get that student to a safe place. So step 1 is always ensuring the student's safety, getting them to a student support services professional, and then submitting that mandated report to both DFPS and our Fort Worth Police, who are working with us very closely to be able to receive those calls directly into our human trafficking unit there. And then step 3 would be notifying that campus principal that a report was made. We're honoring the confidentiality, but we also know that the first place parents come to for help is usually the campus, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on with our students, and if there are any campus safety concerns. We've had a couple situations where trafficking was happening on the campus or recruiters were coming to the campus. And so in those situations, we have that 3rd tier response. So as you can see, once in step 1 here, once the student is referred to the student support professional, that little dotted line takes you to a student support services response. And there's a whole nother set of procedures for them to make sure that the student is cared for in a trauma-informed way. All of our student support services staff are trained in TBRI principles, and we have several TBRI practitioners in the district, including Trisha and myself. Then on step 3, when we have the notification to the campus administration, that kicks off our 3rd level of response, and that is the administrative and safety and security response, because of course they have their own procedures that they would follow regarding security of the campus, making sure that there are no further actions that need to be taken there in case folks are actually recruiting students from their campus. And then of course, that alerts our Tarrant County Care Coordination Team, Alliance for Children, and that gets a whole another team of people involved to make sure that we can get that student to a safe place, make sure that they're connected and that they are getting the services that they need. Next slide. So the second objective of our grant is to make sure that staff is trained and that they know how to respond to student disclosures in a trauma-informed way and then report those concerns. Next slide. Okay, this slide is a little discombobulated a little bit from the original, but this slide shares with you some of the members of our Human Trafficking School Safety Protocol team. So at the top there, you'll see that 3 Strands Global Foundation is listed, Alliance for Children. We have several of our local police departments who serve on our team. Catholic Charities provides assistance and guidance. They work with a lot of our families that are coming from out of country. They have services available for them, especially our refugee students. We've had about 55 families so far that are coming to us from Afghanistan. And so they provide case managers for those families, and we work very closely with them as well. We have our health services partners included in this list. And then we also have, let me highlight, the Office of the Texas Governor, Dr. Tommy Grover, has been a guiding force for us in our efforts in implementing this grant, and has given us a lot of assistance from the Child Sex Trafficking Task Force. So I want to give her a shout out. And then again, from our Tarrant County Special Prosecutor to just so many partners that have come together. So just to echo what Jackie was saying earlier, it's all about collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. So with this team of people, we have built out a school safety protocol for those who are at risk, who are suspected, and who are confirmed as being at risk of or being harmed by human trafficking. And then from this protocol, it goes right over into the Tarrant County Child Commercial Sex Trafficking Care Coordinator. And so Alliance for Children then helps as our hub so that those students can be connected with needed services. Next slide. Prevention, education. Oh, go ahead, Tricia.
Oh, that's good. So our next objective was our HTYPE project, in which we were given the PROTECT curriculum. That would be our curriculum that we'd be using for prevention education. And what we were able to do with that was to work with the developers 3 Strands Global, with our partners Unbound, North Texas, and customize the original PROTECT curriculum to address more of the challenges that an urban school district would face. And by addressing the risk factors and emphasizing the vulnerabilities and indicators that staff would need to be aware of when looking for and helping students with the at-risk factors for human trafficking. And through the lessons and activities, students are able to build a resilience to the labor trafficking and sex trafficking by strengthening their knowledge and skills. And with this prevention education curriculum in the climate that we are under now, and with Senate Bill 9, we are presenting a virtual online parent webinar next week to gain consent for parents to follow Senate bill, which is now to opt in. And this is a mid-semester kind of push for us, which we're starting in this December, as we're going into the curriculum rollout, which would be in January. Next slide. So for our grant, our requirement was to have the PROTECT curriculum. And as we customize it, we have helped them to make it a little more poignant for elementary, in which the grades for us would be 4 through 12, and elementary being this curriculum of safe places, safe people, and safe choices. And then moving into the middle school for us would be protecting a masterpiece. High school is broken into 2 components, with high school 1, grades 9 and 10, building resilience and protective skills, and then rounding out with high school 2 for the upper grades 11 and 12, understanding and recognizing human trafficking. So all student support service personnel will be trained in all these curriculums starting January, when we return back from winter break, during Human Trafficking Month, with the actual curriculum rolled out on the campuses based on their availability, their different activities on their campuses, and going from January into February. Next slide. One thing, I'm sorry, I wanted to go back on that last slide, is AJ and I are both trained on Not a Number, and we are going to use Not a Number. Data is collected for us from OTIP, from OTIP on grades 4, 6, 9, and 11. So we're using Not a Number on those off years to supplement more of the prevention education. Thank you. I am.
Okay. All right. So we're also, as we've said, training those student support services professionals on the protocol, education, and then assessment. Next slide. So what our assessment looks like is we're trying to hit it from 3 different directions. So at the beginning of each year, we provide a spreadsheet to our staff from our focus system, which is what we use in the district. We pull students who meet the multiple indicators for human trafficking risk, and they become a caseload for those either the intervention specialist or the counselor on the staff. So they have sort of a jump start to kind of start looking at those students who might be at risk before they even arrive on campus, so that they can start planning, putting a school safety and support plan together for those students and placing them at that 3rd tier for intensive services to see if, what do they need, what's going on. A lot of times we don't realize a need that a student might have until way into the fall semester. So by pulling that data ahead of time, hopefully we can get the students served, and some of those prevention efforts will be more effective because we're hitting them earlier in the year. From there, we also use the See It, which Jackie shared with you. And then Lighthouse, again, she beat us there, but we're now with the Lighthouse platform, and they have been really, really helpful. So we have about 400 people trained on the See It and Lighthouse, and we've already had a few screenings going into the system. What we love about the See It and Lighthouse is the fact that all of our partners in Tarrant County use the same tool. So if we submit a report to CPS, and we can then put in, well, this student was clear concern in this area, and they were clear concern in that area, and here's some details directly related back to the See It tool, then we find that CPS is far more responsive. And that's something that was really a surprise, and we were really happy to see. Whereas before, because CPS is so understaffed and we know the challenges they encounter on a daily basis, it gives them more detailed information from which to make decisions about response. And then having it online in the Lighthouse system has been really helpful as well. We don't have to do any math, and we don't have to figure, out what the score is going to be. Once we just answer honestly on that tool, then Lighthouse does everything else for us. And then Trish and I are able to pull trends. We're able to pull data based on what part of our, we are a very large district. We have about 80,000 students, and we're broken up into 4 regions. So it allows us to see which parts of our district have higher needs, which parts of our district are doing more screening. And then that gives us targets for campus visits or additional education, additional support for the campuses. Next slide. So upcoming activities for us. In January, we're really blowing up January for human trafficking prevention. That is when our district staff will receive their human trafficking 101 to 103 training. We will also kick off prevention education for this semester, the upcoming semester, for our students in 4th through 12. We'll continue education for our prevention educators. They will continue to receive TBRI and trauma-informed CBT training, as well as continued education in human trafficking. And then our school board will again proclaim January as our Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And we hope to have survivor leader voices at our January school board meeting. Unbound has been very helpful in helping us to staff 2 positions that we have on our team for survivor leaders who have helped us along the way in designing our protocol, our prevention education plan, as well as our re-entry plan for those students who are coming back to us after having experienced trauma. And then, as Trisha mentioned earlier, our parent and community awareness webinars will begin then as well, in collaboration with our family engagement specialists. So it's really been an interdepartmental, division, I guess you can say, cross-functional team within our district, but then it's also been wonderful building relationships outside of our district and learning from those in the community who have been doing this work for so long. So as an LEA, we're jumping in, but we're learning so much from those around us who have been doing this work for a long time. And so those relationships, that collaboration is of utmost importance. Next slide. This is another view of the trafficking prevention campaign. Next slide. And so here's our contact information. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to take them. And then you have information for us as well. If you would like any of the materials we discussed, we're happy to share. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you for presenting today and giving us your insights, and it can help us make big strides and from your experiences you've already had. All right. Let's see, there's some contact information as well. And we are going to provide you guys a link to this presentation at the end of today. So you'll have that before you leave. So don't check out before you get that.
Actually, it's been dropped in the chat.
Awesome.
And just to let everyone know, in the chat, anytime there's been a reference to a program, we've tried to at least give you a link to that program. One thing I would note is around Texas, you have different agencies that can help. So that find your local child advocacy center for victim support, and find your local commercially sexually exploited youth advocacy programs. Both those links will help you know who to contact in your area, or start to be able to know that information. And so those are all in chat. Hopefully that's helpful. And if you have any questions, we invite you to put them in chat as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rod. All right, Monica Brewer from TEA is going to be sharing with us some resources that are available to you through the agency. Monica?
All right, thank you, Nancy. You can go ahead to the next slide. Yeah, so just to remind you, our upcoming webinars, the Friday, let me back up. So the Friday, November 5th, it is posted, it is live on our TA website on the webinar series page. And so the PowerPoint and the presentation video is there. You got the PowerPoint for today. That will be posted on the website as soon as it's available. And then also this video will be there. Want to ask you to come back and join us on January 7th. We do a little bit different. So we will have another panel coming up on January 7th during Human Trafficking Prevention Awareness Month. So please join us again. And then the final one is going to be March 4th, where we're talking about more resources. And to kind of help build up into that process, as we look at that, let us know what tools you need, what other resources that you need, and then we can work on building those out and getting that to you. And as we update other resources that we're building out, and hopefully also by March 4th, we should be really getting into our public comment part of SB. I can't remember which one it is right now, but it's on the signage. Can't think of the number, but it's the signage. So having you opportunity so that you'll know to reach out, to talk, to make comments on that signage for human trafficking. Next slide, please. And then for those who are looking for posters and to fulfill the poster requirement, we have the no-go tell posters available on the website. Remember that they are to be 11 by 17, available in English and in Spanish. So just use your own, campus printing or your district printing to get that done. And then put those in those high traffic areas where your students are going, coming in and out of doors. at their eye level. So, it's going to vary depending on the campus. Elementary is going to be a little lower down, and then high school is going to be further up. So just think about where you want to post those and how to get those done as part of our legal requirements for just notifying kids and making sure that they are aware of what they can do and how they can tell. Okay, next slide, please. If you did not catch, everyone had a good protocol on how they do this. And so if it's an emergency, call 911. Any factor of child abuse, if it's an emergency, call 911. But as you know, we do call in, we do report it to the Department of Family and Protective Services, and then we go through that process. And then also, if it is a relation to human trafficking, we also report it to our local or state law enforcement. So you will call your own, your local police department. Now, realize that does not include your local district police department, because that is a part of your organization and not outside of it. So if it's a hunch or worry, you're thinking about it, and I do apologize for this blue on this text, but we'll change it. Remember, you have a Texas Abuse Hotline that you can report it to, and that number is on the screen. So just really take time to be observant around you, know your protocols, know your procedures, but watch out for a kid. If you see something strange, ask someone. Think about it. Really think about, should I call or report this? I would always say err on the safe side of calling and reporting, because you do not know the life that you may be saving. So just think on that part. Next slide, please. If you did not get a chance to see it, the Human Trafficking Prevention Awareness TA went out earlier this year. Here's a link to that. So it's in the PowerPoint, in the PDF that you got. So really talking about what those resources are, how you can find them, the toolkits, and then some of our training modules that we will be updating. So really thinking about what you can do, information that you can find. So that's just a nice, quick, clean little copy of how to find those documents. Next slide. And then our toolkit. So our Child Prevention Toolkit really has a wealth of information for you on really, as an educator, what are you looking for when you're looking in those classrooms, looking virtually into those rooms. And so there's an employee guide, an administrator guide, and then there's the posters and the banners that you can also include in your materials. So there's a link to that on the website. Next slide. The Texas Gateway is still up and available. We will be revising this module, but while we're in that revision state, you will still have access. Do know that you can download this to use as a part of your own district protocol modules. Just know this is specifically for human trafficking. It is not human trafficking and child abuse. So your child abuse piece will have to come from another training. So you can merge them together, mesh them together, but just know this is specifically human trafficking as you do your trainings. But feel free to still download it, use it, incorporate it into your processes. Next slide. And I want to say thank you for joining us today. I want to say to AJ, Patricia, and Jacqueline, you did a great job today. Thank you for providing us a wealth of information of what your district's doing, and then looking at some of the forms and the documentation, because that helps us all to understand, the thought process. And one of the takeaways I got from this also is you're really working hard to build those partnerships in your communities to get everyone aware. So that's one of those things. And if you remember, go back to last year, people, we did talk about asset mapping, and that's part of that, building that community, building that process. So that you just showed us how you're doing it, and we look forward to continue to see, and hopefully no one's going to be tricked out there. And so getting into that process and maybe try to use that somewhere else. I was like, don't be tricked. But when you said the kids came up, that really makes sense to me. Don't be tricked. So thank you. I can't see if there are any more questions. Here's our QR code for today's presentation. So if you'll take a moment to do our webinar, So we'd like to know how we're doing and if this is meeting your needs, or if there's something else that you may want. Also in that fact, if there is something that you need, please let us know. I've been, it's been about a year now in my in this role of working with human trafficking. So we're really looking at how can we improve, how can we find different things, and move forward. Okay, so I'll make sure that the link is available for that. I'll go look. I'm not sure if it's there or not, so I'll check.
Okay.
And in your chat to the side, you'll see the Title IV State Initiative website that has a lot of these resources and information in a kind of a one-stop shop format, especially on our district LEA resources linking page. You'll have a link to the survey. You can use the QR code provided, or there's a link to the survey there in the chat. And then today's presentation has been posted there in the chat as well. So hopefully that is helpful to you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, AJ, and Patricia for presenting today. Thank you, Debbie, for your help in that work, and Monica. Just a reminder, as you know, start thinking about how your district can participate in the Human Trafficking Awareness Month next month. There'll be several campaigns out there, but you know, just that bug in your ear to think, how might we do something to promote awareness? So thank you so much for joining us. We wish you a very happy holidays and look forward to seeing you on the first Friday in January. See you next year. Thanks.